Here's the big challenge of life. You can have more than you've got because you can become more than you are. That's the challenge. And of course, the other side of the coin reads, unless you change how you are, you'll always have what you got. I have found in my experience that income does not far exceed personal development. Now, sometimes income takes a lucky jump, but sure enough, unless you grow out where it is, it'll usually come back where you are. Life has strange ways. If somebody hands you $1 million, best you become a millionaire quickly, so you get to keep the money. Otherwise, sure enough, it'll disappear. Somebody once said, if you took all the money in the world, divided it up equally among everybody, it would soon all be back in the same pockets. Incredible. Success is something you attract, not something you pursue. Success is looking for a good place to stay. So instead of going after it, you work on yourself. Personal development. See, the major question to ask on the job is not what are you getting. The major question to ask on the job is what are you becoming? See, the big question is not what am I getting paid here. The big question is what am I becoming here? Because true happiness is not contained in what you get. Happiness is contained in what you become.
Thank you guys for taking a listen to some of the personal development conversations that I've been having with myself by listening to Jim Rohn. He's been someone I've been listening to now for about a year or so, and it's about a year or so is about when I think I first started to really start looking at working on myself rather than specifically being financially goal driven. And while they are interrelated, it's something that I've personally been working on to try to better myself, because I recognize that no matter how hard I worked at my day job, while I love what I do and while I know that what I do is extremely important for those around me as well as people in the world, I recognize that unless I really developed who I was, all I was really doing was bettering the things I was working on. And something that would be equally better to do is taking maybe a little bit of that time where I was continuing to work on these projects and drive into these projects that I was working on at work and put it into myself, make myself better, make myself a better speaker, communicate things better, basically just making myself better. And through that, or in parallel rather, I would be able to do better at work. I'd be able to be a better person to my friends, family, be a better person to you guys through YouTube, helping you guys in your financial goals. And so while I've been doing YouTube videos now for about 2 years or so, maybe a little bit longer, 2.5 years, I recognize that just coming home, churning out videos isn't necessarily the best content for you guys. And so you guys may have noticed over the past couple weeks I've really tried to dig deeper in myself. And about a year or so ago I think I noticed a drastic change listening through some of these other folks, whether it was Grant Cardone, Jim Rohn, a bunch of other motivational speakers, trying to understand how to make myself a better individual for my friends, family, the marketplace, the world. I noticed that it made a big difference in my current job, my day-to-day job that I work on, basically saying 9 to 5. And it made an impact on the relationships that I had with my coworkers. And I hope that if I also develop myself as well, it makes a difference within the videos I create for you guys, whether that is continue to help you guys in your investing journeys, continuing to show you guys how I'm developing myself, and really trying to understand what I want to be in the next 15 to 20 years to make myself completely fulfilled and happy. And that includes financial goals as well as travel goals, personality goals. And I'd say I really started to develop more of an appreciation for these travel goals, personality goals, business goals. Throughout time, over the past 6 years since I've, really been working full time in industry, or in reality, as some people might call it. But I would say it really started hitting home for me, I would say about 3 or 4 months ago. And I'd always had travel goals, and I always had personality goals and business goals. But I think one of the things, and I think the reason why I've done so well thus far, is because I've been able to really stick to a lot of my financial goals. And with my financial goals, some of these other things end up getting strove or dragged along with it, like travel goals, personality goals, business goals. But at the end of the day, it truly doesn't change unless I change myself. And I think in order for me to really meet the goals that I have internally that I've never really wrote down and expressed with people before, I really have to attack it from all angles. And if I'm strictly focusing on one thing, while I love that one thing and it is currently the biggest take of my time, understandably, because it's got a great purpose and it allows me to live the lifestyle that I live, which is my W-2 income job. Other things need to become more of a priority for me to be a better person, which will in turn, mean that I become a better person for my 9-to-5 job, which means that outside of my 9-to-5 job and my hobbies, which is investing and creating side businesses and stuff like that, while albeit very small at the moment with side businesses, continuing to grow those and really trying to develop my side income so that way I can achieve more of the goals that I want. And so this was really me putting down, what you see on the screen here is really me putting down the goals that I've kind of had in my mind that really quickly came out. I'd say I probably put maybe 10 to 15 minutes worth of work on here, and as you can see in the bold on the outside on the top and on the right, there's some really good quotes by Jim Rohn. And I'm sure as I continue to listen to people like Grant and others that have a personal development aspect of things to their businesses, I'll continue to write things on there. But these were the ones that really quickly came out. And I think you heard the first one, although it might not necessarily be word for word. But when given an opportunity, do not ask what you will do with that opportunity, but ask what you will become with that opportunity. And that's something that I've really started to really focus on in my own life, which is, what am I becoming being down in, say, Trinidad, or being back in Houston, or anything. Everything that you do, you're becoming something different. And if you're just trying to do something, it's very short-sighted. And there's nothing wrong with that if you don't want to change. But for someone that wants to continually better themselves like myself, that quote has a lot of impact to me. Trying to understand what I will become, whether that is, something for my family, whether that, my immediate family or my extended family, or eventually my own family that I will have maybe in the future, or just my coworkers, my friends, and also the world. What will I become for the world? What will I be known for in the world if that's how large I want my influence to be? And so that goes hand in hand with working very hard on your job. I noticed that, yes, I could work harder on my job, and yeah, it might impress, certain people at work and say that I have a really good work ethic. But for me, what I noticed was the harder I worked on my job, the more angry I got at myself because I was taking time off from friendships, I was taking time off from traveling, I was taking time off from, and so I really recognized that while it is very hard, or very important to be putting in time into your 9-to-5, it might be also extremely important to develop these other 5 pillars, which we'll kind of get into here. And also, what I recognized, and I had an inkling about this, but I think Jim Rohn really puts it into perspective, is for things to get better for you, you have got to change. And what he talks about briefly, and I won't go into it for too much detail, but what he talks about is he had a mentor that he talked to when he was 25 years old. And Jim Rohn retired, a very, very wealthy man in Glendale, California. But the mentor told him to write down a list of things that he saw wrong with his life. And so Jim goes through the list and he says the government, the weather, the traffic. And then eventually he goes to his mentor and says, here's my list. And then he said, you know, Jim, there's one really big problem with this list, and you're not on it. And Jim then goes on to say throughout a couple of his talks that he gives, a couple of his seminars, that things are generally going to be about the same no matter what. Government's always going to be the same. Taxes are always going to be there. Governments might change, between liberal governments, conservative governments, but things are going to be about the same. The only thing that is really able to be changed by yourself is yourself. And so if you don't change yourself, things are never going to get better for you. If you're just going to try to be stagnant and coast through life, then things are never going to get better for you. If you don't develop an above-average handshake, then how are you expecting to get above-average income? If you don't have an above-average smile, above-average work ethic, these are all things that Jim talks about, and it really puts into perspective everything. I mean, if you don't have an above-average smile, above-average personality, if people look at you and they're like, I don't like that person, then how are you ever expecting to develop yourself into the person you want to become? And so it's really about looking inward, personal development, and of course, personal development isn't everything, but I believe it's something that helps fine-tune things. You're probably a great person, very intelligent person, but if you're able to fine-tune things, change small things about yourself, people will call on you. They'll be more dependent on you, and things will get better. And so what I want to do in this video is talk a little bit about my financial goals. I think a lot of you guys have heard about this. And then maybe some of my other goals, my travel goals, personality goals, business goals. I don't really have family goals in there at the moment because I've just put this together in about 10 to 15 minutes. But I think it's really important that we take the time and really put down some pen to paper, because I had a lot of this in my mind, but I didn't really have it on anywhere where I could see it every day. And so I feel as though I've been making a lot of progress on my financial goals because I have them on this workbook all the time, my goals, actuals that I kind of look at, right? So talking about how I'm going to hit $1,000 in income next year and per month, and in all those other things, $12,000 in dividend income for 2020, and potentially $50,000 a year in income, passive income, by 2026, 2027 timeframe. And so I feel like I've made a lot of progress on those because I have them written down and I looked at them and I talk to you guys about them quite often. But I think one of the things that I haven't done is really document the other things. And I think some of my friends and family know about some of my travel goals that I have, visiting 10 countries by the end of this year. So that is a really big goal for me. Before this year, I had only been to like 3 countries, I'd say. And so earlier this year, you guys know I went to Mexico. I now live in Trinidad and Tobago, and I was grateful enough to be able to go to Grenada about a month ago, which is a phenomenal trip, and I definitely want to go back. Beautiful place. But I've just noticed that you get a very different perspective of the world, a very different perspective of America by traveling, and don't want to get too much into that, but definitely think that travel goals are something that I definitely want to hit. And I think at the moment, and this goal might change, but by the time I turn 50, which is in 2041, I want to hit a total of 50 countries. So a country per year. Currently behind, if you think about it that way, because I'm currently 28 and I've only hit 6 countries, but I'm hoping with this new goal and putting myself pen to paper, we'll really start to accelerate that, maybe hit 2-3 different countries per year. And then for personality, I definitely want to, develop an above average handshake. And I wrote average there twice by accident, but one of the things I definitely also want to continue to do is develop my communication skills. I think my communication skills have gotten a lot better over the past 2-3 years, but I still believe that talking too fast is something that I believe I do, and with that, I think that makes my brain have to also talk a lot faster. And so sometimes what will end up happening is my mouth will just continue to move, and my brain just, for some reason, couldn't keep up. And I'll end up saying something slightly diluting the message, and that's something that I've had discussions with bosses and friends where I have to, reiterate what I'm saying or communicate it a different way. And it's never been extremely horrible. It came across completely different, but I think that if I communicate better, if I work on this, my messages will be a lot more powerful. And instead of having to say, well, what do you mean by that? Or clarifying, they'll hit the first time and it'll make people sit back in their chair and say, wow, okay, yeah, that's a really intelligent thing. Whether it's either really strategic for the business or, really strategic for your personal brand or what have you. And so the final goal, 15 to 20 years out, is to become more of a world-class public speaker. And the reason why I want to do that is whether I want to go into upper management, whether I want to be my own manager of my own businesses, becoming a world-class public speaker is something that really hits home with me. I really admire folks like Grant or Jim Rohn who are able to speak in front of thousands upon thousands of people and really move them and make them think differently. And I get a lot of value out of that personally. So if I'm able to then take their messages, take my messages, my personal thoughts, and convey them to you and also have you change your mindsets, which I think I've helped to do in the personal finance space, but also things like personal development and things along those lines, I will be able to feel better about myself as a person, feel like that I came to this world, learned, and was also helping others achieve their own personal goals, which I think is something that has always been something personal to me. Personal brand is to help others, and I currently do that with my current day job, but outside of work, if I were to start my own businesses, like I do on YouTube or any other businesses, whether I get into real estate or anything like that, helping others is a huge thing to me. So that's what I mean by becoming a world-class public speaker, being able to take messages and convey them to others and change their mindset about things. Not try to manipulate people, but rather trying to show them my perspective and think and have them empathize with my point of view, so they can kind of see things through my eyes. So and then with businesses, this obviously has to do with, where I want to become inside my current 9-to-5 job, my own personal businesses, whether that's through YouTube or whether that's through, continuing to develop my own personal finance brand or other goals. And with this, I think one of the big things that I've mentioned is really in about 5 to 10 years, I want to decide whether or not I'm going to continue to work at a 9-to-5 job, or if I do well enough in my own personal businesses, if that means I eventually go out on my own. And I don't intentionally want to do one or the other. I think it's all about how well I'm doing at the one or the other. If by chance I do really well in my personal brand and in my personal businesses, and I don't end up doing so well in my 9-to-5 job, then that might lead me to say, well, I'm doing better in my personal businesses. But there could also be the fact that I love working on my personal stuff, and just like, say, the Goldman Sachs CEO, where he does DJing part-time and what have you, if I still end up doing these personal finance videos 5-10 years from now, while I'm still trying to lead teams and organizations within my current job, then that would still be fine with me. If I'm still 5-10 years from now doing what I'm doing now, which is doing my 9-to-5 or working my 50 or so hours a week at my day job, and then on a couple hours every week, doing live streams or making videos for you guys, then that's perfectly fine with me. And either way, in the long term, I want to be leading companies, whether that's, leading certain parts of the business, whether that's the financial part of the business or engineering part of the business or what have you, or my own personal businesses, whether it's real estate, personal finance, YouTube channels, my own Shopify stores, stuff like that. And I guess currently you can say that I'm leading those things, my YouTube, my Shopify stores, but in actuality, they're small. Yeah, so developing them and then leading them is probably a better thing to put here. And so this might develop with time, but I think at the moment leading companies is best said. That's what I want to do in 15 to 20 years. So I'll continue to polish this and maybe get it more clear and concise as time goes on. But this being the first time I have things written down, this is as good as it gets for right now. And over the next year or so, I'm sure I will continue to hone in and polish. In order to get those things, have short-term goals like becoming globally known at my organization, write an ebook, which is something that I've personally thought about in the past, continue to guide others in their investing journey. That's something I'm doing now, doing it through WhatsApp, and really trying to do that through YouTube as well. Hoping to get 10,000 subscribers by year-end 2020. And then also talk at a financial seminar, maybe in 2020, 2021 timeframe. And then because I'm so adamant about investing in the stock market and getting my income up so quickly, I think that a realistic goal would be get my first rental property in 2021. I obviously could do that in 2019 if I wanted to. I could sell a certain portion of my shares or that I have at the moment, or and do that in 2020 as well. But I think realistically, waiting till I get back to the States or finding out where I end up going next rotation or assignment with what I'm doing now, it leaves a little bit of wiggle room because obviously if I go to somewhere in Southeast Asia or Europe for another assignment, then maybe buying a rental property might not be the best idea, and maybe end up putting that off for a little bit. So, but yeah, I mean, that all kind of fits together and leads into my long-term financial goal, which is about $1 million a year in passive income. And there's kind of a stretch goal beyond that, which is about $1 million a month. But $1 million a month is a lot of work and requires a very big step change in where I am today versus getting to $1 million a month in passive income. So I really think at the moment $1 million a year in passive income is a good goal. That means I would have to get around $20 to $25 million before I end time on this earth. And it might not be 15, 20 years from now, it might be a little bit further away. But I think that's a really good starting final goal, and I think that it's achievable at the moment. Whereas $1 million a month in passive income, or even if you just say total income, $12 million a year, that would require a step change, a very drastic step change in the coming months. Not coming months, maybe in the next 5 years, and it is attainable. Just for the path that I'm on at the moment, I believe that $1 million a year in passive income is achievable, but $1 million a month is not. So, like I said, this is something that I'm going to continue to hone on, polish, and if things change, obviously, if my trajectory changes, or I end up doing really well over the next couple of years, and end up saying maybe $2 to $3 million a year in passive income seems more like an attainable goal in the next 15 to 20 years, then maybe I will change it to 12 million a year, or 12 million, or $1 million a month in passive income. It all just really depends on trajectories. It's very hard to predict out 15 to 20 years when you really only have a track record of 6 years. And so really, obviously the things that are very tangible are the short term, and that's something I can easily develop and work on and change very easily. And hopefully short-term goals lead into long-term goals, and then long-term goals, if I continue to hone those, and long-term goals will eventually become short-term goals. And so this will change as I go through 2020 and 2021, and eventually try to chip away at final goals. And the final goals might end up being something that become really easy. Becoming a world-class speaker could come sooner than I think, or going to 100 countries by 50 might be something that changes. I mean, it all really depends on where I end up. If I end up becoming financially independent early, and decide to leave work early in say 2025 and go out to business on my own, I might move to a different part of the world where it's a lot easier to get to different countries and experience different cultures. And so hitting 50 countries by 50 at that point might be extremely simple, especially if I say go on an assignment, whether it's me moving there personally for a year or two to Southeast Asia, if I decide to go out to work on my own, or if I get an assignment in Southeast Asia. A lot of countries very closely linked together, and so it's a little bit easier to travel when you're outside of North America, which is really only 3 big countries, and then you have the Caribbean here, which makes it a little bit easier to hop around to different countries. But so yeah, that's really the goals at the moment. I really hope this video finds you great. Hope this video finds you well. If you haven't already, hit the like button, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. This is something I haven't really touched on a little bit, or have not touched on at all, and I think it's extremely important for us to recognize. And I think about a month or so ago, or within the last month, I made a video talking specifically about my investing goals, or your investing goals, and making sure you have written down what you want, and or what you're expecting out of your goals, so that you can formulate your own plan. And so that's specifically for investing, and I think that this page here, or what I'm putting down here, is specifically for my life. So it's not only my financial goals and my financial plan, but it's also what my plan is for travel, personality goals, business goals, and eventually family goals when I decide to write that in. So like I said, really hope this video finds you well. Hope this inspires you to maybe write down your own personal goals. They might be in your head just like they were for me for the past 6 years. And I finally, after listening to motivational speakers say, write down your goals, write down your goals, I finally decided to write them down, and really, really happy. I think this is a new pivot point in my own personal development. And, if I work on this more than I maybe, or focus on these goals more than I maybe focus on specifically my financial goals, I believe that they will work together in parallel and really have a step change effect on my finances, my travel, my personality, my businesses, whether that's at work or my own personal businesses. And when I finally get around to writing my family goals, I believe it'll also have a drastic change in my family goals as well. But one of the things I definitely want to work on, I think is a little bit more difficult to do, is the personality. And I love my personality. I wouldn't change it for the world. I don't hate anything about myself. There's a couple things I might change though, but I think overall there are skills that I want to polish. I believe I have good communication skills, but they could always be better. I believe I have great interpersonal skills, great handshake, but it could always be better. And I believe I'm a decent public speaker, but I do catch myself in meetings and I say, wow, I really should have said X, or really should have said Y. And I really, maybe even as a world-class public speaker, you might say that about yourself, but I was like, maybe I should have said X brilliant idea instead of Y brilliant idea, and maybe it would have changed the message slightly. But at the moment, I'm still in its infancy and still trying to become this great public speaker. So really hope this really inspires you guys to maybe write down your own goals, share them down in the comment section, maybe down below, and please give this video a thumbs up for the Google algorithm. And I will catch you guys on the next video. Really excited about this new chapter. So thanks guys, talk to you soon.